Welcome to Talk Tennis.
Thank you very much.
If you guys don't recognize that voice already, the tennis nerd is here with Troy and I in studio. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me. It's amazing to come here. Finally, after all these years.
I was going to say I brought in case we needed warm-up questions, but we've already been chatting nonstop, so I don't think we'll need those. But I want to hear first, before we get into anything, what were your first impressions when you got to Tennis Warehouse, and maybe give people a bit of an idea of what it was like stepping into T-Dub today or yesterday?
I think especially the court was the main thing, because you've seen that so many times and so long, for, over so many years on YouTube, and then you go to the court here it is. Here's the magic happening, right? And everyone working here that I've met, awesome people. That's mainly it feels like a warm family of sports lovers overall. So I think those were the two standout things. Otherwise it's warehouse and offices. But the people are what makes the place special. And also I saw some secret rackets, which was fun.
So the court, though, talking about it, did you envision it in the back corner of a warehouse building with forklifts and pallets all surrounding it? Or
I did actually. I think when I started watching, you didn't think about where it was placed, but then over time, and also because I've talked to you guys before, I was I have a feeling that it's the back of some. There's boxes on the other side of this place, right?
Yeah.
But
cases
it's awesome.
of balls everywhere. Yeah.
But it's nice to have a court where you work. Right?
Oh yeah,
it's
for sure,
so
sure.
good.
It's tucked away in the back of the warehouse.
For sure.
We talked about the speed of the court, how it's gotten a bit faster over the years. We used to be very gritty and stuff. So
we're campaigning for a resurface. So
yeah, resurface and. I'm pushing for a cushion layer.
A cushion. We need a cushion. We'll
fundraise. The court kicks because initially it was the gritty, right? Way back, it was super slow.
And new colors.
For an indoor court, but also combined with the way it was painted on the surface. I've played on a lot of outdoor hard courts, B&P, wherever, and it's a firm concrete, So not only do you get the grittiness, but on a kick serve, it bounces high because the base layer is just it's a hard court, Yeah.
And then be careful if you play dingles at all this week. Those angles are lethal. So strategy.
Oh, yeah.
Running into the wall. Yeah. I like dingles actually. I played it in Malibu now before I drove here. It's just fun sport. It's fun.
You play with Schaefer and
I hit
Rodrigo.
with Schaefer and Rodrigo, but we didn't play dingles. It was just us three hitting, testing prototypes and stuff. But I played in Malibu with some very competitive people, nice people from Malibu tennis club, or racquet club. That was nice. That's fun. If someone is super competitive on your team, you're because it feels a little bit silly at first for European dingles, because you don't play it. But then when you see someone, but you have a lot of laughs, and it's kind of takes it down the competitive feel a bit, So I like it.
We try to do a Friday dingles, but it gets competitive for sure. Yeah.
Of course, it should, and especially on a Friday. People want to win and end the week with a W.
Sure. Is this your first time in California?
No,
okay.
I've been here for a work that's not tennis. So I've done commercial productions and stuff in LA before. But this is the first time I feel free, because usually when you go for work, you're on a tight schedule. We have to go to this location and we shoot for, this day, and then we go to another location, and you're just working all the time, except eating nice food in the evenings, right? So.
Nice.
That's cool.
So I was going to ask a little bit, you kind of mentioned Malibu Racquet Club. What else? Tell me about once you landed in California, all the tennis that you've done, because you basically worked your way up the coast playing tennis, it sounds like.
It's been a lot of tennis. Yeah, I didn't know, in the beginning I thought, okay, I'll just take this by ear. I just play it by ear. I just drive around and, because I play guitar as well. I wanted to go to some guitar places, cool. And I have not had time for that.
But Balls next door. Do you know that brand? Yeah, there you go.
I will heard us about some good stores as well, so I'll check it out. But no, so I started just play by ear, but then people contacted me we have to meet. So I went to Beverly Hills Tennis Club, met Wilson there, super nice guys, Michael and Rodrigo, who also, they've hit with Roger, which is pretty cool. So
Rodrigo was his hitting partner during some of the videos.
Which is crazy. Yeah,
that's pretty nuts. So I hit with a racket that Roger hit with, so that was cool. Being a Roger fanboy, of course. And then I've hit with Eric from Toraline. So we went to a beautiful club. It was 1 hour drive. I don't remember the name right now, but we'll get to me. I've been everywhere, right? So we played there. He took me to In-N-Out Burger, which was a must. I've never had In-N-Out, so amazing.
Animal style.
What was the order? Yeah.
I didn't go for like the protein or anything there. I just went cheeseburger.
There you go.
you
that was
gotta
good.
start. Yeah.
That was good. I really liked it. So, and
No
like all
mods.
kinds of food. I met Eliza from Insta fame, right? I met Gil Gross, who does the tennis channel and like he does some ESPN even, I think.
Okay.
And I've hit with Malibu. Then we played Dingles with Sarah and a bunch. So, and then I played twice the other day because I drove up and I met a guy in Ventura, Jeremy, who's like invited me to the club, and I'm like, I'll stop there. And then after that, I drove straight to Santa Barbara to play with another guy, Taylor Goggins, who's
Yeah.
who's a D1 player.
He
Right?
played at UCSB back in the day.
Exactly.
Around the time Andy.
Oh, nice.
Big serve, that guy. Oof. So yeah, it's been a lot of tennis, like, but it's been super fun. I love Cali. Like it's been, I'm like, I should move here. It's my kind of vibe.
We like
Did
it.
you get to go backhand to backhand with Carousel?
I did not. He was training with a junior, and we only had a bit short of time, right? So I had to leave, so it was a shame. Super nice guy though.
Yeah.
We did talk a lot of rackets, so.
I seen he's in. Has he had a challenger in Tennessee or something like that?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I just saw a post.
He's doing the last 4 tournaments because
Oh my
he gets
gosh.
a bit fatigued with the travel, which is understandable.
But the last 4 will be in the States. Is that,
Oh, nice.
So a shorter leg, But yeah, he's into potential racket switch, so we had a lot of talk about that.
And then when you met with Eliza, did she give you any fashion tips?
I need many fashion tips, but we didn't really talk fashion. We talked all things tennis and not tennis in LA. Like also, she's a European coming and living in LA now for a few years. So it's interesting to hear that perspective and how that's
That's cool.
some fashion, of course, but
Yeah.
Okay, let's get into it. Current gear of choice. What?
oof.
Yeah, I know. that
Trepidation.
that was one of the questions that we were just kind of saying. Troy maybe can take the lead on this one, how he's kind of not committed at the moment. It's open season.
It's kind of the flavor of the week or the flavor of the month. I go seasonal. I always
Pumpkin
keep.
spice latte,
Yeah.
gingerbread latte, peppermint latte.
Me and Jonas have a thing in common here. We both have the big RF bag, so
Yes, you do.
keep a lot of rackets
and
in
they're
there.
both filled.
When I go to the country club, the local one, and hit with some of the juniors and stuff, I bring some rackets that they can try. So it's very seasonal. I keep an E-Zone 98 Plus, my customized one, and lately I've been hitting the E-Zone Tour. So I go back and forth between those as like a baseline, kind of like, you have your RF as a baseline. But lately, like the last, I'd say, month or two, when I'm not hitting those, I pretty much just been hitting the Wilson Pro Labs,
Okay.
like all of them.
Yeah.
The Blade Pro, the Ultra Pro, the 6-1. So that's kind of been my taste lately.
Good taste.
But not too long ago, I was like big in the V-Cores. I was like V-Core
And the
98 Tour.
And the 95.
and the
I feel
95
like.
customized. So I was like V-Core heavy.
Yeah.
Kind of flaky guy, huh?
I know, man. But I keep my baseline. I keep my fallback,
I got
the
you.
E-Zones.
I got you.
How about you?
Baseline is important. Yeah, I'm equally flaky. Open relationship always,
Hard to
Wow.
commit. It's hard to commit.
Flavor of the week. I mean, I really feel myself in this kind of like bringing a big bag of rackets so people can try. It's kind of a fun thing to do and see what even pros to happy intermediates, like see what, how do you feel about this one? How does it how did the design appeal to you and stuff? You get a lot of information. It's a good like conversation starter, I feel, as well. So. But for me, it's always been like, okay, Prestige MP is kind of a baseline. Now I traded the one I brought, but but then I'm like, oh, I need power. Playing with D1 guys and stuff, you need more power. So I'm more leaning towards like Aero 98, this kind of racket, and then Drive 98.
A little more modern, a little more.
Yeah, a bit more
Modern,
pop.
okay.
Yeah, it's needed. But then the Pro Labs, good.
Yeah.
Like 6195 is kind of like has a warm place in my heart as well. So
Cuts them out.
You guys
yeah,
are like the same person. It's okay.
yeah. It's like.
Ultra Pro with a lot of weight in the hoop because the swing weight in this thing is stock is like 310.
Okay.
So I had to put a
Mine
bunch
was
of
305. It was even worse.
Yeah, even lower. And then this one is the opposite. So I've been hitting with the Blade Pro.
Yeah, this is
1619.
a gem. Yeah.
No weight in the hoop. This is like 338 swing weight stock. So I put a bunch of weight in the handle, leather grip, and then like I don't know,
All Blade Pros.
10
are
grams in the handle with tungsten. So I'm trying to get it head light enough for it to feel maneuverable.
Whippy. Yeah.
But those have been fun.
Which is the best cosmetic? Let's talk about that.
Oh man,
This is quite sweet. Huh?
Yeah.
this is nice. Sometimes I really like the kind of brownish root beer kind of aspect
Root beer,
going
yeah,
on
that's
there.
a good way of describing it. Actually.
And the blade's pretty. I like the glossy for sure more than the stock kind of more matte finish on the
Yeah.
regular
on these
blade.
ones.
They're all really good looking.
all really
but
good
yeah,
looking.
the Ultra Pro is hard to beat. Man. It's like,
Maybe V8 glossy looked even better, like with the more color shift and in gloss. You know, the V8 blade. Yeah. But they look great actually. This one, I mean, obviously people were a bit on and off with this design. It's like always black, and then you go to this. But I think it looks pretty good, especially glossy. It looks very nice.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, something else that you guys both have in common is you're both really in tune with what the pros are using, and you like to dive into that pro stock racket, as we can see even with these ones. So I was going to ask you, is there anything new in the pro stock world or the pros that you have tried recently? I think I might have gotten a sneak of something recently on your YouTube channel, but any fun pro stock rackets you can talk about?
There's not been that much going on, like in terms of pros. Like the latest story that I have in my head, I haven't done a video on, is Bublik, who's now gone from like the T fight, because he's been, you know, with ESO 98. Before that, he was with something else that I don't remember. Oh, he tried Gravity Pro for a while, and then he settled with Technifiber, the T fight, which is kind of a control racket, but with kind of a lot of weight in the hoop. And now he went to TFX1 for the Paris tournament, you know, which is that's a lot of power, you know, and Mutea plays with this one as well.
Yes, yeah.
So that was an interesting change, I think. We'll see how it works for him. I mean, he likes breaking rackets, so we'll see if...
Didn't he already break a couple?
I'm sure he broke. I think every tournament he's going to break like a few.
I think he's already snapped a couple TFXs.
Is it a TFX?
In the Paris. Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
It is.
Oh,
yeah,
Thicker
so,
beam.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's tricky with the TFX. I mean, if you get into the pro stock, like it's tricky with the TFX one because the butt cap, you have the rod, like the metal, like the old Lacoste kind of tech, with the to filter out vibrations. So when you see it, you see, it's actually the TFX one, you know. Probably the 98 though, I don't know for sure, but the 98 was a lot of power in this frame, yeah.
Yeah. And it also, with Technifiber rackets, it's just kind of the thing, but the TFX has the dampening rod, but even their other rackets have a sealed butt cap. There's no trap door, so it makes it a little, especially with the rod there, I wonder if, you know, some of those players that are using those, how their customizer tail weights the racket for them. With the other ones, you can drill a hole through the wall and fill it with silicone, or you could remove the butt cap. But with the rod in there, it's probably a pretty solid filled tube. So a little difficult to tail weight those. That's one thing that kind of a little frustrating at times. I've talked to Technifiber reps and stuff like that about it, and it's like, why can't you just put a trap door in there? Every one of these I've messed around with adding tungsten inside. You know,
what do they say?
It's just something from the top, you know. I don't know, back in France and the engineering team, I think that it has been mentioned with the dampening system in all their rackets. I don't know if the tubes are filled with something, but it's like, stay out of there, don't mess with it.
Right.
But it does make it a little frustrating for people that like to customize and tail weight.
Yeah.
Nice. What about you, Troy? Anyone on your eyes that like you're very curious what they're using or have dug into? What
like recent Pro Tour stuff, racket-wise. I mean, one thing on the World Tour Finals, it looks like Taylor Townsend's got a new cosmetic on her racket. We'll find out what's going to happen there, you know?
Got a lot of comments on that one the other day. Yeah.
Weird.
But speaking of E-zones, and this is something that she plays with an E-zone. We'll find out what she's using. But speaking of E-zone rackets, this is something that kind of flew under my radar, and I didn't really notice it. And I don't know if he's still... I think he's still using an E-zone, but Chapo supposedly was using like a custom 1820 drill pattern on an E-zone 98. I don't know if he still is.
I think so. Last time. I mean, he's usually in, like, I'm in Marbella, Spain, like south of Spain. Yeah. And the pros that are there are like Safiulin, I know personally, like, and Novak, Chapo, a bunch of like Kushkin and those guys. But there's just a bunch of pros training and like living there. So you usually see them around the practice courts, you know. But yeah, I think he's still rocking that one. But he's, I usually say, like, if a pro starts getting into this kind of space where you and I are in, where we kind of test too much, it's not the best sign. Like there's some kind of insecurity there, you know. Like, you need to have your setup and you need to trust it. You can tweak, but I think it's a bad sign. Generally. Yeah. Like, I work with some top pros, like, I mean, just help them with some advice and stuff, and you see that it's not gonna really work out so well when you start testing too much.
Testing too much. I was gonna bring up a player. I love the guy. He's close to Tennis Warehouse. Been in our store in Indian Wells, but Donald Young, You know, there was like a point in his career where he was just bouncing around Prince,
Yeah.
Technofiber.
How you gotta pay those bills?
And he's like a total like racket nerd too. Like he
Yeah.
talked to Jason, our playtester, and he's like, yeah, I've seen your videos, man. You know, like, and he's like into customizing. So, I mean, there's a point where I think he's interested and likes the technical side of the gear, but like you're saying, I think sometimes they switch. If they're switching too much, there's an underlying thing going on there. It's like,
Yeah, and I think like
it might
they're
mess
all
you up.
everyone I'm talking to, like who's playing on the tour, they want more power, right? It's like that's the whole thing. Like the balls are going dead quicker, whether it's because they're hitting harder with more spin, which is kind of my feeling of it. But like, ball quality, we can have a long discussion about. But like they want more pop. Like how can I get more out of the string bed from, you know, for my game? Because like the game is just getting faster and faster. Everybody's hitting harder. So that's the general consensus. Like they will want more power, but they don't want to stray too far from what they already use. So it's a tricky one.
And that's probably why, now that you say that, you know, I just want a little more penetration through the court. Marcos Giron's talked about it a lot with his strings. And that's probably why you see some of the best in the world that can afford it, or maybe somehow get it for free. I don't know if they do. But go with the gut hybrid, the gut mains, you know, Novak, Fed, Serena, and also swing weight. So swing weight, adding, you know, some mass to the hoop, that's power. And then the gut seems to make a real big difference on energy return from the string bed. So
some pros I've dealt with a bit, they don't like the hybrid. So that's the tricky part. Then it's like maybe dropping tension in the current string if they use a stiff one.
Yeah.
But you've seen a lot, like Tommy Paul, like a lot of these players are just going like gut cross, you know, and stuff. So you're seeing it more and more, which is like kind of old school in a way, but it works also for new kids on the block.
Yeah.
Kind of,
Like I can't ever imagine Rafa playing gut hybrid.
No.
But he's known.
Sabalenka, she doesn't, or does she hybrid or no?
She's tried gut hybrid, I think, in her career.
Yeah.
But she goes
She needs
never
control.
tried
I think
it.
she tried it, but I think
Yeah.
full alu, right?
Alu, and I think at one point, or maybe Ace in the crosses.
Yeah, she maybe still uses A's in the crosses. Yeah, that's
like
true,
a
actually,
thinner
yeah.
Luxilon poly.
It's kind of a rare one. You know, see some weird combos sometimes. You're like, what are you? Even like Rublev with adrenaline. You're like, why are you playing with this?
Yeah.
Even Wilson, like where we discussed it when I was there, like they were like, adrenaline, man. Like it's like a little bit like substandard to compare to like their super fair of like 4G and Nalu, right? So it's interesting.
Rafa back in the day with Duralast, that's like one of your cheapest old school polys. And then like random polys like Burditch back in the day. He was the fluoro guy, the Luxilon ALU fluoro. And like I think they like kept it around for
Just
him.
for him.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it'll be out.
Yeah.
Well, I could go so many directions with questions, but you did mention like some of the weirdest things that you've seen. Name a few, or like some of the weird combos, or like players that you're like, maybe this isn't the best fit for you.
Yeah, usually like the biggest worry sign is like when they bring if they go for practice and they bring like, you know, 6 different string setups, like different tensions and poly mains, like gut cross, gut mains, gut like that. That's this thing where you see it's like, oh, this is a bit worrying, you know, like they're trying everything, you know, because you can do that maybe short time in the off season, but otherwise you're risking to screw up. Some pros, they even do like big technical changes and trying different serve stances and stuff like that during the season, which is not gear, but still.
Yeah.
I mean, like Caru's setup, I would like, we discussed this, but he's using a very high tension. I'd probably maybe not use that high tension if I would advise, but we'll see what he switches to. He plays like 63 pounds, you know, something like that. So that's high in a Percept 100D.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's, you know, the classic Manarino thing with the like 24 pounds or whatever it is. Kukushkin uses something similar, but hits a bit more fuller swing.
Yeah.
I don't know, you know, how that works, but they can manage it. So that's always interesting when people drop so low in tension. And you have this WTA doubles player like who uses like 90 pounds of 4G, which is like that's the stiffest. Aikiri, it's like Norwegian, I think. So that's as stiff as this table. You're playing with a paddle racket.
Right? It's like
she comes up every now and then in our
yeah,
podcast.
yeah.
Quite extreme. Yeah.
In an ultra. So it's like, yeah, there's the point of like you do so much with your string and your tension to make the racket work, but at some point you think maybe you would just, like in her case, just go with a more control frame.
Right.
Like I think another case that I was thinking of in my head was Nishikori back in the day. He always played with that 95 Wilson mold, the 27 and a quarter, 16-20, kind of the Davenport Hennon.
Toward 95,
old, you know, that old school recipe, that frame.
Yeah.
And it's got some pop to it for a 95, and but he had a lot of arm issues, so he was like poly, and then he was like gut hybrid for a while with like gut and element, and he would go down, I heard, like in the 35 high 30 range, because I think his arm, he was looking for the comfort because he was having the arm trouble. But I guess he now in the last year or so switched pro stocks.
Yep.
And he's on like an 18 main pattern, 18, 19.
It's 18, 19, I think. Yeah, I don't know like the mold though, because like there are a few. When you see the Ultra cosmetic, the molds can be a little bit deceiving because they're like, you have Prismic now, the Croatian youngster who like almost beat Novak, I think, some years back. A really good player. He plays with like some weird Ultra mold now that it's not an Ultra, it's something else. You know? So
and Chorich has been known to bounce around molds.
Like people say P25. These are like very rare.
Yeah.
You won't easily find these.
But yeah, he finally went, and I found an account online where the guy said he hit with Nishikori's new pro stock in his string, basically his racket setup, and it's softer.
I know that guy.
Yeah, softer, and so it's finally made sense. It's like you went more control with the racket, so you don't have to go so crazy with your strings.
Yeah,
I think that's an important thing to note. I mean, I know we don't always, as like rec players and stuff, don't always have the money to invest on a new set of rackets or change your rackets, but there is a certain point where you can only do so much with the string as far as cranking up the tension or adding the gut and lowering the tension, that you might just be better off going with a more control frame or a little more powerful frame. Yeah.
Or even like the customization, you run out of options, right? Like how much weight can I add to this to get more power? Like you might need just a more powerful frame, for example. Like if people just slap a lot of weight to get stability, or it's good to be able to test a demo, a few options, even for the pros. Sadly, they don't seem to get a lot of kind of like insight from like a lot of coaches. They don't know anything about gear, They know a lot about tennis, but about gear. So they're a bit in the dark, and they're like, what should I do? And they try to slap a bit of weight on themselves, You saw what Andy ended up with, right? An ESO 100 full, like with 370 swing weight. If you would advise him, they would be like, don't do the same weight and balance because the frame is so different, and try to play it a little bit differently.
Yeah.
Do you think that's how that happened? They just kept adding weight and they like didn't
He
start
just
low
wanted
enough?
his, like, so he, like I talked to this guy who owns the store that he went to. He just started buying a bunch of frames and testing stuff, himself. He bought a 3-in-1 machine or 4-in-1 or whatever.
Smart.
And started just playing around. And he ended up with the ESO, which is a great frame. Like I love the ESO 100, but still like the 370 swing weight. I mean, he wanted his own weight and balance, but it feels a bit counterintuitive to change the frame so drastically and then not change the specs,
Yeah.
So,
yeah, because it's like totally, I mean, like that's something I learned. Like I was initially, when I started customizing stuff, 15 years ago, I knew the spec I had on like my old K-Blade, had like a 340 swing weight, and I started doing that to like all these frames. And like, rackets like an E-Zone 100, a more power racket. And sometimes your spec doesn't work well on all types of beam widths and stiffnesses. Like, you kind of have to adapt the racket for, how it feels and how it plays. Not so much like, oh, this is my spec on everything.
Right.
Yeah. And also I was kind of like, with Murray's situation, I was kind of wondering like, maybe he tried the 98, but I was thinking the E-Zone 98 would probably be like the first gradual step. Or
I agree. I think, I don't know exactly what he tried.
Yeah.
I understand, like you try the ESO and you want more power, like the ESO 100 is so easy to use.
Yeah.
But then you like got hybrid and 370 swing weight. But and if you don't change your game, like you need to change your game a little bit. Like I think in his case, he maybe played the same game. Okay, this was the last few months, like, so not a big deal. But like if you'd have to kind of work with your game a little bit with the new racket. And then if you don't give it time, it's going to be tough to get it to work.
Maybe he was influenced by Casper. Like, go with the 100, man.
Could be. Yeah, but Casper plays like a quite like 27.7 inch, right? Like, it's like this is quite extended towards the 28s, right? So
and supposedly a DR.
Yeah, it's a DR 100 plus. Yeah.
That word's not allowed. Those two letters together aren't allowed anymore. The people will be coming.
I was talking about Foot Doctor.
The people will be coming for those DRs.
Yeah, everybody talks about the DR being
and
so
the
amazing.
SV, well, V Core SV, I feel like. Also,
all the Ionics, less dampening.
Open the vault.
Yeah, it's funny how some of those older People get stuck on like a certain generation of rackets. We've talked about that over the years. DR for E-Zone, SV for V-Core,
K-Blade, kind of, yeah.
K-Blade,
Babylon with
Power Bridge for vocal. It's a smaller group, but like Power
yeah.
Bridge was really big with our playtesters.
Not Woofer. What was before Woofer?
Which is the
well, they had
first
the
original.
Cortex.
The Cortex.
And then like the 2015, and then the Blade series, the 2015 was really popular.
Yeah, but that's that I see that like a guy I know, he's like 200 ATP. He's like, oh, I can't let these go, man. Like I have to, like the 2015, you know, he bought like 10 of them.
Yeah, and they're trash.
But
now.
it's like, yeah, but now I need to switch. What should I switch to? And then it's like a big, you know, it's tough to switch, you know, when you really love this frame.
Yeah.
And you maybe want more of something, but it's like, it's a tricky situation, you know? So, and there are a lot of generations that people just got stuck to.
Yeah.
And it's kind of fascinating how that works, you know?
We just barely got our old sponsored player, Andre Dome. He was like top 500 or in that range, in the 400s. But he was RF 97 forever. But like the first gen, like the black and red.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. People really love the black red one. You know, that's something I've come across as well. Like, oh, the black red was the best. No, what is this?
Yeah,
You know?
Well, he was smart too, because all of my black red ones are completely shaved down, but he bought a lot and he still has some pristine ones. And I was like, okay, good for you.
But
was that your favorite as well?
I don't remember, really, to be honest. I just remember that was the first one, right?
Yeah.
And then, like, I just destroyed all of them. Not destroy, but, like, used them, you know?
They used to chip quite easily, though, I think. Sticks,
yeah. And then that's actually, I mean, it's been 10 years? When did those launch?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
15, I think, yeah.
So that's
close
like
10 years.
a little bit of the lesson of me learning at T-Dub. I've been here 11 years. And I remember that day I came up and I was like, this racket just doesn't feel the same anymore. And like Troy, you probably, or J-Dub looked at it and it was like shaved down. And then we put it on the RDC and it had lost like 20 swing points.
Yeah, of course.
Points. So I was like, oh, like there's a lesson.
Yeah.
When you need to, like, that's the thing I get a lot. Like, how can I reduce swing weight? Yeah, you get an over-spec racket. Like, it's not nice, but you can start shaving like under the grommets. You can like start making some, on purpose, you know. But usually you dink it a bit, but in this case you can get it down. But doesn't feel nice to go for a new frame and start like shaving off graphite kind of, and paint. So it's one way.
We had our sponsored player Amina Bektis, who was stuck on the 2019 Aero Plus.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and I have one of those. Yeah,
and she had a low swing weight in her bag that she loved. It was like 320 or something for a plus, and then we got her some more, and she had the customizer cut the bumpers off.
Yep. You need to do that.
Which is fine, but it didn't look good. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean, I knew she knew what she was doing. She knew what she was getting herself into.
Yeah, she knew what she was
probably trying to be a little careful with scuffing them up, but
the interesting thing, like that I see a lot of like club guys do, is like they put this kind of protection tape, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And that adds quite a lot of swing weight points. Mm-hmm. So but he's like, oh, try this. I'm like, oh, but there's going to be like 10, 15 points higher because of this tape you have. Like, and then,
I grew up with that stuff, which I'm convinced that's why I like I like the weight at the tip of the racket. Mm-hmm. My parents would always like put it there, like, oh, protect your bumper guard.
Sensible. It's sensible in a way, but it does change the specs quite a bit. So it's good to know that, you know.
Yeah.
And that combined, so the head protection tape, but also the racket she was putting it on. One of the rackets you played with was that Prince Precision.
Prince Precision
Equipe
long body mid plus. So
which in our archives on the Racket Finder through Tennis Warehouse from way back when, it was like a 340, 350.
Yeah, it was 28 inches long.
I think it was like close to a 340, 350 swing
You're
weight.
playing with a monster, like it's a Diego Schwartzman racket now. Like,
yeah. How old were you?
Yeah, like
10?
16. Oh. No.
Like arm falls off, like middle of swing. You're like, oh.
And then I went, that's how I switched into Pure Drive. Because in college, my freshman year, I started running through that and Prince stopped making them. So they kept sending me the triple threat green. Mm-hmm. And I was like, no, this is not it. Please, no. And so when I got to college, I was like, hey, coach, I need a new racket. And that was ironically right when, because I'm old, right when Babylon got introduced to the United States, like early 2000. And
Carlos Moya and stuff like that.
Yeah. And I remember even like I have Croatian teammates, and like one of my Croatian teammates came over with the red Babolat's, and it was like,
oh, the Pure Control and stuff like that. Yeah.
So it was like for a moment.
Bring those back.
Yeah. For a moment. And so I got into without knowing, the Pure Drive team, which was extended also.
The plus version.
Yeah. But back then team meant heavy. Right?
It was like the standard model. Yeah.
That was very strange. Like, let's call the team the standard. Like, it's what they do sometimes with shoes. They're like, oh, this is the GP Challenge one,
Pro, or
which is
yeah,
more
yeah.
expensive and the better version than the Pro. You're
Yeah.
like,
Huh?
this makes no sense, right? It's
Yeah.
like a naming confusion, right? They really.
Super confusing. Actually, that was one of the questions I was going to ask everyone today. Is like, if there were a racket that you could bring back, what would it be?
Pure Storm Tour GT, I think. That's off the top of my head. I mean, there's a bunch.
lot.
I could give you a list. I could easily give you a list. But this was like one thing I was discussing with, was it the Wilson guys maybe? That this racket so good. I mean, Sampras like stopped with his after his career, right? Like retired the Pro Staff 85 and went to that one. And there's a good reason for it. This is a very nice stick, you know. And the Pure Control rackets, I think Babolat made a mistake. It's not for me to say maybe, but it's like I think they should still be around. You know, I think they're good sticks. You know.
Sorry, you got it, one?
Oh man, there's a lot. I think we mentioned this a long time ago on a podcast, but some of the extended ones, like the 6-1 extended, would be fun to bring back. The old Marty Fish type racket, and then the Prestige XL. I never really got to hit those. The Intelligence, there was an XL version of it, 27 and a half.
Yeah.
So stuff like that.
That's pretty rare too, because Head doesn't do a ton of extended options, right? Or am I wrong?
They
No,
haven't.
no.
They haven't.
No,
Yeah.
Now they have the Gravity. Is it in
Oh, yeah, the
Europe?
MPXL.
Like, yeah. Booney was playing with that. The Gravity MPXL. Right?
Yeah.
I haven't tried that, but
That's
I have
nice.
tried it. Okay.
There's a lot of good rackets from the past, but those are a
Yeah,
couple that
those are a
I would
few.
I would have liked to try.
They had the open pattern of this one. Like my father still uses the 1618 6195. Like when they had two patterns. I
Yeah.
think that's pretty. I mean, this is quite a lot easier to use than the 1820. I would say you get a little bit more lift on the balls.
Opelka's been known to use that.
Yep, he's using it.
Cole Schreiber used it forever. Yeah.
Nice. What about, someone asked, what are some trends that you see in Europe compared to the United States that differ?
That's interesting. I don't see that much of a difference. I mean, in Asia, it's obviously like lower weights everywhere, like even on the retail models, you know. In the US, I feel like people want heavy rackets as much as possible. Like they like the heft, you know, oh, this is like a serious racket. You're getting more graphite for the buck, you know, kind of thing.
Heavier racket and double cheeseburger.
Double cheese, yeah. Double cheese, right? So it's like, it's more, you know, like
Yeah.
that's how the thing. In Europe, I think people are gravitating more towards like nowadays a bit more towards like lighter rackets, like 300 grams and playing with that, you know. But it's tough to generalize too much because it's trends that ebb and flow a bit. But most people generally, I think, should play lighter overall. But
One thing I've heard from, and I never been to some of these countries, but like in the markets where it's really clay court heavy, like the available courts and clubs, 1820s are really popular for those like higher level players because of string breaking and stuff like that on the dirt. Yeah.
More durability, yeah.
Yeah. Even though, you know, like you think clay, you'd want more spin.
Yeah.
But I've just heard that like 1820 does really well there just for string breakage.
I think that's an interesting topic. Like I talked about, I mean, I've talked to so many people this day. I don't remember who I talked to, but we're like discussing whether you should like accentuate your like spin or neutralize it. Like if you're a spin player, should you go 18-20 to have more control, or should you maximize and go to air 100, for example? Like that's an interesting topic. Like do you want to maximize or kind of find like more balanced approach? It's kind of, I guess it's up to the player.
Yeah.
But I'm seeing a lot that people want to neutralize a little bit. Like, okay,
Yeah.
I need 18-20 because I'm hitting with so much spin so vertically.
Well, and then as your 1820 and 100 square inches or 98, I mean,
Yeah.
what would you say,
Well, no,
Troy?
this is as soon as you said that, like this was a thing that I was thinking about while I would go to sleep at night.
It's like counting sheep.
years ago, and that was when I first switched to the 6195.
Well, and I will say I was watching some videos of everyone that's here this week, and Beckett had a video about this.
oh,
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, about control setups and like how it actually affects, how he perceives it affects your game.
Yeah.
So,
It's an interesting discussion,
yeah.
actually. Yeah.
But when I first switched to the 6195 1820, like back 2014 or 2013, something like that, from a blade, that's kind of where I was going, is because I was like, at first I was like playing with like Extreme Pros, and I would weight up Aero Pro drives to try to get like the Nadal type spin. I naturally lefty, I don't know, and also just my strokes can generate a lot of topspin.
yeah.
And it got to the point where I felt like I was struggling to hit through the court. And also sometimes when I would get tight in a match, I would be hitting so loopy, so much spin, and hit balls like around the service line, like lacking depth in the ball kind of just sitting up, especially like on a slow court. Michelle just steps inside the baseline and just whacks winners hard and flat.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm tired of getting pushed around when I get tight. I need to start hitting through the court. I need to start swinging freely. So by going to a racket like the 6-195, I was kind of doing both of those. Like the 18-20 pattern was kind of giving me that lower trajectory and kind of giving me less sit on my ball and kind of, but also it was a demanding racket. So I was like, you need to start swinging that arm like Roger, like get the racket through, just start hitting the ball. And so, yeah, exactly what you're saying. That's what I was going for at the time. And now I'm back to 16-19s, but usually in more control frames.
Yeah, if you play like an E-zone, the launch is quite flat anyway. Like you can get a flatter trajectory. So it depends really, like I think the launch angle of the rackets, and obviously your string setup affects it as well, but it's something that people need to think about. Like where do I want my ball to sit for the opponent as well? Like it's very important to talk to your hitting partner. Like, do you feel like I'm hitting a heavy ball with this racket, or is it like very easy? Is it sitting up it's too short, which is a huge problem. Jeremy, who I stopped and played with yesterday, I think it was, or it was 2 days ago. He had like the issue where he's hitting so much under the ball that it sits a bit short in the court, And he was playing with V-Core 98 Tour, which is a good stick. But he felt like it sits up a little bit much. Now he's a bit of pure drive 107, which is kind of a step. But he played well with that one. Sometimes you have to let your ego rest, and you can play with 107 or 105 or whatever. Some people are too macho, like it's a 95 with the 400 swing weight. You can play with 107. It's fine.
Yeah.
Wait, so should you be working more on your technique or figure out the best gear for you? Sorry, that's
technique
my
always.
instinct.
Technique. I think like doing work outside tennis to play tennis has been like the biggest change for me. It's really like doing a lot of. I always like into training, but now I do like a HIIT program every morning. I like just to stay knee healthy and make sure you can move well. Right. That's more important than. And then technique is of course important, but people get crazy. I have friends who are crazy about technique. They obsess. Like, have you seen this new video about the one-hander? Like when you hit it, if you try this tip, like your non-dominant eye, or have you seen Muratoglu talk something about blah blah blah? And I'm like, that's a rabbit hole as well. You get stuck in the technique. You overthink when you're playing, which is not good. Like you need to play and be like free. Your mind needs to be calm. And this can be quite too much as well. So both gear and technique are important, but you get it out of your head when you play. Right?
And then there's the whole one thing that I really admire about Chris is like he's been playing forever. He went to Bolletary. He's such a good strategist. Like his mental game, his point construction, breaking down someone's weakness. That's something that I've had to learn over the years. And I still am. I'm always going to be a technique guy. That's how my dad was coaching football and other sports. I love fundamentals and technique, but I've gradually took bits and pieces from players like Michelle and Brittany who played juniors, who played at a really high level as far as point construction, breaking down someone's backhand, the mental game. That's a big part too. I mean, there's so many rec players that I know, like in the local area, 4.0s that have just very like pushy and weird strokes. But they're great. They're great. They're mentally tough in matches. They don't double fault. They know where to place the ball. They're tough, man. They give me tough matches. I'm like, oh god, know. But the mental part is huge too. Yeah,
I think it shows like the diversity of tennis and like the beauty of like different styles and contrast that you can play. You can be like a forehand slice guy, and you can still win matches up to like 4-5.
Oh yeah.
Like you're just like moving the ball around the right spot. You're a bit annoying, as a player. Some guys I've played, like we have these kind of leagues, and we have different tournaments in Marbella, not like a huge lot, but still like in Spain, like there are a lot of guys like moonballing with massive spin, but they run everything down. Like they're super fit, so they will never like lose a point out of like a sloppy mistake. Never happens. So they wear some really good players down, like who played high level. Like they wear them down because they just run everything down, loop up the ball with spin, and the point starts again,
Yeah.
Sounds like Mark Boone.
Hey, Boone's
Which
one of
I
them.
was just going to say when you were mentioning that, we're sick of like, sometimes we'll get comments like about his technique on YouTube. And it's like, bro, let's put a match together.
You go play him for 2 hours.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Death by 1,000 cuts is what he likes to say.
It doesn't matter what it looks like. That guy is like, he's going to run every ball down and you're really going to have to grind. So
I think like it's like the crypto bros. It's like the technique bros, they're like in the comments field, like trolling, like, oh, but you should see my forehand. It looks like Roger. And then they've never recorded themselves. They never like this, the trolls, like they just know everything. Virtually they know everything, but and then like they like to complain about other people's technique, but they would lose in a match. Tennis is, you play your own. Look at Medvedev. Like, I mean, he looks kind of unorthodox to say the least, but like top 10 guy, right? So
yeah, I was just watching last night. I was thinking about that, watching Nori Like
Yeah,
his
yeah.
backhand's
Yeah.
very much a bunt, like a flat shot, but it works out well because his forehand's got the spin. He's a fun player to watch, man. I like him.
And what's his signature? He's got that signature shot. I can't remember what it was, but because he played at TCU and. Anyways.
Yeah.
Go
No,
look
he's
up
he's
Cam Norrie.
shovel backhand side spin. Like
Yeah,
so,
it's
the
like
I saw the match I was in at the Swedish Open. Now Rafa's kind of last, I think, ATP tournament. Was it the last one? I don't remember. But and I got to see 4 Rafa matches. And he's obviously it was obviously not the same as you saw him in his prime.
Yeah.
But he played Norrie, and in the beginning, like he couldn't quite get the read, but then he is Rafa. So but he has this really tricky like combination of like one spinny forehand, as you said, and one kind of side swipey backhand, like shovel backhand. It's tricky to play against. And he really reads the game well. So different styles, that's what tennis needs. We can't all have like Zverev styles. Like it's not good for the sport.
Tennis bots.
Tennis bots, right? What about 2025? What are you looking forward to? I don't know actually how much you're limited to talk about things. We're a little more, I think we have to be a little more careful about what we can say and chat about, but you seem to have a little bit more free reign.
I don't really, I'm trying to, if there's media embargoes, I want to, I'm always honest in the reviews, but I want to play ball before the review, right? So I don't like, just bashing, like people in forums and stuff, they usually like bashing, like, oh, you should throw it in a trash can in the review. It would be good,
Oh, gosh.
because it brings out
And then
like
you'll
some
never test again.
some animalistic thing in people, I think. But being like, I'm biased and trying to always give an objective review, I think is good. But there's a lot of releases, but I don't really know what I can say,
Well, I know, yes.
Teacher, can I bring
Troy,
up?
what you got?
So
Yes.
I wanted to propose something here,
Uh-oh.
or talk about a subject.
Bring out serious topics now.
I can't remember how long ago was it when we did the podcast together?
I know. I actually
The last
gotta
time?
look it up.
Was it like a couple years ago?
No.
Yes.
At least a year,
It's
right?
been. It
wasn't
like,
COVID though, right?
It was like COVID. I'm pretty
2023?
sure. I'm gonna
Early
look it up right
2023?
now.
Either way, I pretty much I'm pretty sure I remember us. One of the questions was that you kind of brought up here was like you asked if you could bring a racket back, but there was one question like if you had a conceptual racket that you could make for yourself, like a design.
This I remember. Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure Jonas said, or you mentioned, if there could be a gravity with a 98 head size and an open string
Weird.
pattern. I was like, so I was thinking about that this morning. I was like, did Tennis Nerd basically
Predict the future.
conceptualize?
2 years
Did
ago.
he bring the Gravity Tour 98 to the market for us?
Did you
for the people?
manifest that?
Was he talking to the high ups and head? And or were
Yeah,
they
actually,
listening?
that was
Were
my
they
idea.
listening?
No, it wasn't. It was my idea.
Yeah,
but
it's
yeah, sometimes I think just like there's not that much room for innovation, and I think like if something is, you have your popular forums and where people like, oh, I would love this, and I think the guys look at influencers or content creators or obviously your guys' content, and they talk to you before. So I think there's a lot of like also consensus in the industry, like, well, let's try this, let's try this. The Gravity Tour 98 is an interesting bat though. I think we'll be keen to see how it does, because it's a little bit different than the regular gravities, so.
Can we talk about its performance? I know we've talked about it.
Because I think you already have a bit of a review up on
Like how
that
it's
one.
playing.
Yeah, it was, my review was positive but lukewarm-ish.
Okay.
Not sure head was like super happy with it, but like it played better with I didn't like it with Cork Touch, which was like the string the kind of teaser came with. But then I switched strings and it was clearly better. The launch angle was a little bit high for my taste.
It is.
But because that's where I felt like lost a little bit of gravity, but like it's overall a really nice frame to play with. If you're the right player, you need to be aggressive on the ball. Like I think for like defensive guys, maybe a bit tricky, but if you're an attacking player who wants to hit with spin, I think pretty good.
Is the beam the same as the MP and the Pro?
So that's what I was going
to
to
say.
No. I didn't mean to stop you.
Sorry,
I was going to say that now because it is the same as the MP or the Tour, right? The old Tour.
It's the Tour, yeah.
But the one you conceptualized back then, I think you said a Gravity Pro beam, right? Like a thinner.
Exactly.
So it's a little thicker than the Pro.
So yeah, so it's like 22, like kind of, which is kind of goat beam, if 6'1", 95. So I get it, but But it would be interesting to have seen it. I thought they would maybe, when I heard of the 98, I thought it would bring out like the Pro 98 as well, which for me would have been cool.
Which is a 20? Is a Pro a 20?
Yeah, 20. Yeah, it's like prestige style beam. But
maybe
too
then
thin.
It might be kind of getting very similar to the.
Yeah, here we go. Yeah,
the Prestige Pro 1619. This is another one I've been hitting a lot.
That's a nice racket.
Got K-pop in there. It's so soft.
Looks good actually together. Yeah.
It's a great frame. It's I'd say if I had a knock on it, sometime it's a little soft, like on certain ground strokes.
I would like it firmer as well.
Like
I would
up
like
in
it
the
firmer.
hoop,
Okay.
maybe. Whereas some of these Pro Labs, they're flexible down here, but you can tell they're like firm and solid up top.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
But I don't know if they were not doing the thinner Pro beam on the Gravity Tour 98 just because they have rackets like this, and it would kind of be crossing over a little bit. So I get it. But some things that you touched on with the Gravity Tour 98, really open string pattern up at the top. So to me, it's got that spin and launch angle kind of like a V-Core 98. So that kind of modern feel on the trajectory, but it does have more of that kind of classic kind of box beam feel to it. So it's really unique. I think it's definitely, there's a player out there that's really going to love it because of that kind of modern high launch angle spin aspect, like a V-Core, but that kind of like classic soft plush feel. So it's pretty sweet racket so far.
Yeah, exactly. I agree. I think it's going to be a little bit, maybe not hate love, it's a strong word, but I think it's going to have a very clear audience, like this racket is for me, and that like this does not work at all. So it's not like blades can be used by so many different, like we talk about Blade 98, you see it in so many pros' hands, you see it everywhere in the club level. That's kind of a little bit more versatile racket. I felt like this one, I would have preferred 1620 personally, but that's my thinking. But overall, I think they will find it's kind of diehard players, so it's an interesting release for them.
How do you feel about Gravity, Michelle? Do you like really heavy weighted up ones?
58, 59 stiffness, right? So it's too soft.
He's trolling me.
She doesn't usually like that softer racket, but when it's weighted up to like 340 swing weight, about 12.9.
True pro spec, yeah.
12.9.
I'm asking for a little bit of help with the customization on the ones we're hitting at the moment. But we'll see.
Yeah, they need weight. For me, it was like clear that they need weight, and
it's just a little. It's just so low powered right now.
Yeah,
because you've hit a pro stock.
I've hit
essentially.
A pro stock.
That's about 12.9, 340-ish swing weight.
This I like to try. Yeah, this sounds good.
It makes a rip two-handed backhand.
Do you like this one, for example? Like this is close to 340. Did you play this?
Yes.
The Blade
H22?
Pros?
I played I played the 1820. Wait, which one was I on? The 1619. It was Oak and I, right?
And Jofi too, right?
And Jofi, yeah. That one, the spec came in super beefy.
Yeah, so the balance is really off in stock form.
So I struggled during that playtest, especially off, I think, my forehand. My backhand's usually fine when it's beefy, but I didn't love the spec. So I would need Troy's help to customize.
Yeah, a lot of tail weight to make it more like the RF head lightness. Yeah. But in stock form, I think it was like 2 or 3 points head light. So it was the balance made it feel very chunky, even though it's not a super heavy
They're
racket.
all like, that's the thing with the Blade Pro and the Blade. Like these are all like, feels like real pro. It's for the tour, right? Like really, Hachanov, these guys that use it,
Matty Keys.
Yeah. That's what I was just going to say.
Solid stick,
Sometimes I'm like, maybe that's not for me, okay? Maybe I'm not supposed to have nice things. Give me a pure drive.
She's never been too partial to the Blade line.
No, I don't like blades.
Yeah, so blades can be a divider as well, but it's like then the Blade Pro has even more personality than the regular blade, I would say.
Yeah.
It's like you like it or it's too. Many find it like a bit too demanding with that 338 because like you said, if you tail weight it gets better, but it gets heavier and heavier and heavier. It's like if you try to tail weight a rough origin, which I heard you did. Like
I tried.
That's also one where you might want to shave off some at the hoop, right, to get it down to 350. That was pretty good. Good, I would say.
Yeah. And I found, just speaking real quick with the Origin, we had some test rackets that were pretty close to what. So I think if you go to Babolat's website, their target unstrung swing weight is like 335.
Mm-hmm.
So it's about
about
365, close to 370, depending on the string. So we had some testers, some hitters that were like at that spec, but I've also gone into our inventory and check some specs of our, and I found some that were like closer to 350 stock strung.
Better. Yeah.
So I've played with some of those, and it's much more maneuverable, but it plays like a different racket a little bit. It's not really
the tank.
It's not as rock solid. Like you kind of get like the 370 swing weight. You, it's really hard to swing, but you don't really get any vibration in your arm, even though it's a firm racket. Some of those lower spec ones, I started to kind of get some of that feedback more, especially hitting with a big ball like Michelle or, you know.
Yeah. It's if you're a bit late on the ball, it's gonna be punishing, right?
Yeah.
So, mine is 370, and
Shoot.
like I love to hit with it for like an hour, but then like if you play match, it's tough, you know. Like, and you have to like choke up on your grip on the volleys, and you have to adjust your game a lot for that.
Yeah.
Right? But you feel like Rafa for a bit, you know. Like I understand why he likes it, you know. I can see with his game, you know. It's pretty cool.
Well, we're about out of time. So, final question: any hot takes that you want to?
Too early for hot takes in the morning.
I know, right? Could be anything about gear, Pro Tour.
Hot takes 2025.
Have you?
Will Sinner get to keep playing? I don't know. That's a very hot take. Yeah, I don't know.
Just real quick, gear wise, and I don't want to go too deep on it for time wise.
No, you're good.
But anything on your feet lately that you've been really impressed with, or that you've tried?
I've tried to avoid too much shoe testing, which is the boring reply. But like since I've had some knee issues over the years, I'm like I love the Eclipsium 4s from Yonex.
Okay.
I haven't tried the 5s though. So I would love to try the 5s.
I like them better than the 4s, personally.
Oh, okay. They could be a winner. Like, because Yonex shoes, they fly a bit under the radar, I feel like, you know, compared to the kind of bigger brands and Adidas and this stuff. So, and I really like them.
Narrow feet, wide feet, medium?
Yeah, semi-narrow, I would say. Yeah.
Jofi, who in Atlanta, she loves the Addicts SL. I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah.
So does Oak.
And so does Oak, yeah. And both of them, obviously very fast movers on the court. I was just talking to her today, and she was saying she put a hole right through the middle of it, so like at the toe. So she was looking for a new pair. But yeah, that might be worth trying. And they have a more narrow fit than the new Eclipsions.
All right.
Yeah.
Awesome. I'll try that. Yeah. But the Eclipsions it's kind of like under the radar shoe. I tried a new Ad Axel, which was also an interesting shoe, but it's a little bit like extreme. So it's like it takes you probably need to play with it for longer than I did to really get into it, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You ever do Novak shoe? Court FF3?
Yes, that's a good shoe. I mean, the ASIC shoes are awesome.
Hard to beat, right?
Yeah, hard to beat. Like I'm a Gel Res, like the Gel Res 9 is great, you know.
Well, we might be trying a couple of shoes this week, so
Hey.
stay tuned and see what's happening.
Good layup there. Segue.
Yeah. Anything else? Give us your handle where everyone can check you out.
Yeah, so Tennis Nerd on YouTube, tennisnerd.net. We have a lot of like visitors there. I think people forget like it's like 150K a month. So a lot of news and different articles from different writers. So that's cool. And Tennis Nerd Insta on Instagram, which is kind of like more, you know, free and like publishing just, you know, whatever content that tickles my fancy, right? So thanks for having me. It was super fun.
Of course.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
It's really
having
cool
you
to have you in person, man.
Yeah, yes. I love being here.
Yeah.
We get to geek out and nerd out all week with you. So thanks for joining.
Thank you very much.
Let's go hit some balls.
Yeah, let's go play.
Yeah.
Don't forget to play some tennis.
Yay.
Yeah.